Hello. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too.
Pleasure is mine. Going back to university.
Oh yeah, why not?
Hello.
How are you?
I'm fine. Polikala. So he was.
Welcome again to the University of Cyprus. It has been 20 years since the Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Foreign Affairs of Luxembourg, Mr. Javier Bettel, and the Minister of Foreign Affairs of an engaging and insightful open dialogue with the public, where we can explore key topics.
Prime Minister of Luxembourg, Your Excellency, dear colleague, Foreign Minister, dear colleagues, Excellencies, ambassadors, members of the Parliament, ladies and gentlemen, I'm very happy to be here and to address this meeting. We are always very enthusiastic when we host activities related to the European Union. For us, the European Union is our family, and I couldn't think of a better place to host such an activity than the University of Cyprus. We are a truly European university, and we are very, very excited to do our things to promote European identity, European unity, and European ideas. I think this is a very crucial topic that the two ministers will be discussing today, the role of small countries in the European Union. The role of small countries, in my opinion, is amplified when small countries behave more European than local countries. And this is also true in many other respects. For example, organizations can play a role in that respect, such universities. The University of Cyprus is a member of a larger family of universities, a European Alliance of Universities. And as a small university, we know that we cannot do much by ourselves, but we can be a player if we are a player in a larger family. And this is what we're trying to do. We're trying to be good players in a larger family, promoting common ideas, values that we all share, values that we all believe in. And of course, at the level of the citizens, I think Europe will move forward if every citizen thinks that also, in addition to his or her national identity, he or she has a European identity. And we behave as Europeans first. I think Europe has a future. So thank you all for being here, and I'm looking forward to listening to the great ideas of the two ministers and the exchange of views with the audience. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Rector. Following Mr. Christofidis' Department of French and European Studies of the University of Cyprus, who will moderate the discussion after we hear brief statements.
It's a very familiar room. I used to get stressed about events of this type as to attendance. That was my worry a few months ago. Now it's a bit different. But it's great to be back at the university. It feels like home. It is home. It feels a bit weird as well to be sitting on this side addressing our students, my dear colleagues. And it's great to be here with my very good friend, Xavier. And I want to thank the university, the rector personally, Roxa, all the colleagues for hosting. It's a very topical issue. Where is the European Union heading? What is the role of smaller member states in the process of integration? And it's also very interesting that we have here two states that have acceded to the Union at different points. Luxembourg is a founding member state. Cyprus, 20 years since our accession this year. So the question is, where is the European Union heading? The answer to that is, we don't know. I don't think there is strategic thinking as to where we want the Union to be in 20 years. And this is a discussion that we need to have. Yet, there is clear direction, even in this uncertainty. If one looks back at the Founding Fathers and how they envisioned the European Union, and at the end of the day, that basic core of values and principles is the vector, is the direction in such moments of uncertainty. And I always used to say to my students that this is a work in progress. The European Union is not a finalized item. It's something that is ongoing as a process. Integration is a process, but a process without a clear anchor as to your starting point, as to your basic values, is very easily to get distracted. And distraction is a key word in Brussels, in the sense that you have a very short attention span. We are going from crisis to crisis, moving from one problem to another, and by the time you deal with one situation, a new one arises. So the time for the strategic thinking is not there. The effort is not put into that because one has to think about what's the problem today. And problems are plentiful. As we speak in our region, the situation is becoming more dangerous every day. Xavier is visiting Israel and Palestine in a few hours. I was supposed to be with him in that trip, but other things, as you have probably heard in the news, came up, and I'm very thankful for his understanding. But it's a rare situation where you have two wars that could have an impact and are having an impact at a global scale, and both at the same time. And this is after the Union had to deal with the pandemic. So this is a very difficult situation, and in all this, what's the role for member states like Cyprus, like Luxembourg? I believe that both of our countries have been punching above their weight, especially as regards what's happening in the last few months. Luxembourg has been doing that for decades. We're taking the first steps in doing that. And for us, it's not as simple in the sense that we have an existential problem, the situation with the Cyprus question. This is not something that one can easily bypass in our everyday calculations, yet at the same time, we cannot and should not be monothematic. And this is the whole exercise for us in terms of balancing how you can remain fully committed to what is an existential issue for you while showcasing that you have other values, other contributions, both as regards the European Union and as regards certain situations in the international community. And you have been trying to do that, especially in the last few months, with the situation in Gaza, in Lebanon, trying to work the maximum possible extent in a positive way our excellent relations with neighboring countries, trying to do something about the humanitarian situation on the ground in Gaza, trying to find solutions to the migration problem as regards Lebanon, and trying to advocate for the two-state solution as regards Israelis and the Palestinians. That's the only security guarantee for the future of the region. So this is what we have been trying to do. This is what we are continuing to do. Luxembourg, I can say it now for my friend Xavier, in Brussels is the voice of reason. It's a voice of political experience and compromise. And it carries the qualities of a member state that has been there from the beginning, that has experienced from the beginning what led to the European project, and is at the same time a champion of the fundamentals of the EU, the four fundamental freedoms, the economic core of what makes up the EU project. And this is one of the points of imbalance in terms of our expectations. The EU started as an economic organization, yet here in Cyprus, we tend to forget that, and we tend to associate our accession to the EU with, and exclusively with, the Cyprus problem. We have come to realize that this is not the case. Yes, the European Union has developed as a political organization, and we are trying to make maximum use of it as regards our national problem, as regards the Cyprus question. Yet at the same time, it remains an economic organization. And Luxembourg is at the heart of that. So Cyprus needs, and we are trying to exactly achieve that, we need to move beyond seeing the EU as exclusively a forum for advocating for the EU problem. We are doing that. But we should, and we are, expressing opinions on any issue, on any file that comes before us every time we are in Brussels. This is how you maximize your political weight. This is how you maximize your political input and influence. The EU is fragmented, and this is an important part of the problem. As regards the crisis in the Middle East, we don't have a clear, uniform opinion. And this is because the member states tend to disagree on some of these issues. The decision-making process is such that you are reaching a compromise that is in a way diluting the position, the original. There is also fragmentation between the EU institutions, and this is something that we should not bypass, because I can understand why the EU member states can be divided. Personally, I cannot understand how the institutions or within the institutions there can be division. And this has been part of the problem in recent months. So the EU is one of the biggest contributors of aid globally. Yet if one goes in the African continent, you will hear that the countries that are contributing more are others. It's not the European Union. There is a problem of outreach. There is a problem of communicating the right message. There is a problem of fixing this idea, this perception that this is a divided, dysfunctional, unable to reach decisions organization, because this is not what the European Union is all about. And this is not what the European Union should be about. So, what's the solution to all this? More dialogue, more engagement, more respect for all member states, because at the decision time, at the important issues, every country's vote is the same. And this is how one should be approaching such issues. There is, of course, the elephant in the room, reform. We need to reform the European Union. We need to move to different decision-making models, closer to QMV, or adopt QMV as a universal solution for everything. I personally, I find this a very exciting and fascinating conversation, but it lacks a very basic question to start with. What's wrong to fix? How big is the problem? How often do you have this problem? So if you are going to propose a solution that is trying to fix something, you need to identify first what's the problem. And that the assessment of what the problem is and what could be the solution should and cannot be a privileged discussion involving the bigger member states. Because at the end of the day, such decisions are to be taken by all. And this is where us, the smaller member states, have opinions, have views, and are willing, of course, to discuss this in a very open and frank way. So, reform, yes, subject to an honest and open discussion. Enlargement. Enlargement is part of the answer as well. The different waves of enlargement have consistently contributed to the success of the European Union. And we have been holding candidate countries in the whole way towards the European Union for a very long time. So we need to make sure that there is a prospect and a timeline for that, for accession. And on that, we need to be careful as well, Because I'm hearing this argument that yes, but public opinion in some of these candidate countries in terms of supporting accession to the EU is dropping. For me, this is a non-argument. Because if that is the case, then one should really think carefully about the prospects of accession. There should be the willingness to become part of the EU. And why that is not the case, it's a very interesting research question perhaps, but politically speaking, one has to make sure that any new addition is fully committed to this project. This suggests some general thoughts about where we stand. The EU should be doing more. The EU could be doing more. I believe that sometimes we are recycling conversations between us without actually reaching any concrete conclusion. But even that on its own has value, because everyone at that table has a right of reply, a right of positioning themselves, and this is part of the mystic beauty of Brussels. The result may not be there, but that's how things work, and you should be working towards improving them. Small member states are an integral part of that conversation. Thank you.
Melene Xavier, and I studied in Panipestimos Aristoteliou Saloniki during 6 months Nomiki, Dikeo, and that's all. I'm so happy to bring Konstantinos back to university, and he showed me his former office, but the rector told me that he would be happy if he would come back. I want him to stay in Brussels with me in the meetings, because I need also an important voice and sharing the same values. And with Konstantinos I have a partner, a friend, and so he's very important in Europe, so sorry for you, you will have to wait more time. Then the other things, you said we do great. I just want to remember that we did better in the Eurovision Song Contest than you the last time. No, jokes by side. The first thing is, I know it's very sensitive, the topic of the Eurovision Song Contest, but we were back after 32 years, so I have to be very important for me to quote it. No. Joke, we attended, yes, and the first thing is, you spoke about the economic topic. I just want to remind, as a founder member, and you spoke also about public opinion, so allow me to jump on what you said. In 1957, if we would have asked our populations if they would agree to have a European Union, I'm sure the result would have been no. If we would have asked German and French if they want to work together and to bring something together, the answer would have been no. We just come out of a war situation. So sometimes you need to take decisions even if the public opinion does not agree. First thing. Not easy. Maybe you get not re-elected. But midterm, long-term, I lived the longest period of peace on my continent since we have this common project. And through the economy, we have a common goal. And this is what is, in fact, a peace project through a common economic goal, because no one wants to harm this economic growth, this success, this story, and in fact, this union we did together. And believe, if we wouldn't have had this union, I was Prime Minister for 10 years, between 13 and 23. Without this European Union, believe me, we would have conflicts. When I see how sometimes how we shout in Brussels, this would have been 40, 50 in the history, would have been war situations, close to war situation. And so now we are able to shout, but at the end, we are able to agree. So yes, we belong to the founder members, because we always know and knew that doing things together makes us bigger. So we started with the Benelux in 1944. This was the first exchange with countries where we had even common currencies with the Belgians. We had the franc luxembourgeois in Belgium and the franc belge in Luxembourg. Even they accepted less the franc luxembourgeois in Belgium than we accepted the franc belge in Luxembourg. Now we have the euros. Most of you who are students, you just know the euro. You can't remember what you had before. And I remember when I was a student in Thessaloniki, when I had to pay goodies. I don't know if it exists. It was a burger company in Thessaloniki. I had the drachma, and when I took the car from Luxembourg, because I had the Citroën BX, as you can imagine, I had to stop several times to go down to Greece. I had to take my Luxembourgish francs, then I had the French francs, then I had the lira, then I had the boat where they accepted everything, and then the drachmas, and this is something you don't know. Now we just have the euros. I had to check if my social insurances were okay for health and everything. And this is something you don't realize today. And that's the reason why I think it's important. Europe is not sexy anymore because everything is granted. But I remember when I was younger, the first thing is the euro, something, but also the borders. And when I studied in Thessaloniki and I went to Istanbul for the weekend with my car, as you can imagine, so it was an adventure, just the car, but arriving at the border with militaries, with closed borders, when I went to Skopje, closed borders, and I asked, why is the border closed? Because there is a volleyball match on TV. I said, okay.
And we have every day, we have a population of about 630,000, 650,000 inhabitants, but we have who are able to mediate between those, and to do it in a very... And when I was Prime Minister between 13 and was it 2020, I had as a colleague François. Sometimes when it was not in the interest of my country, I was not able to understand what they meant. But it is great. As a small country, one vote is one country is one vote. And you have the same. We spoke about the UN, also the France member and Germany not. Why is China member, Japan not? And etc. That we need to make it bigger permanent members, because then the mess will be even bigger than it's now, it's the 5 members. But we should have the same votes than bigger members. And then we do then the General Assembly also with 2/3 majority, and then we were 6 around the tables. Was the Benelux countries with Italy, Germany and France at the beginning. Don't imagine it was always the UN. And the same with the European Union. We have these honeymoon rules where everything is, a lot of us smaller than the others. Why should we say that we have complexes and we need to get united? We have the same power.